There are people who enter your life like sunshine, and there are people who enter your life like a beautiful storm. At first, they look attractive, confident, magnetic, powerful. They know exactly what to say. They know how to make you feel seen, special, chosen. But not every person who praises you values you. Not every person who loves your presence loves your soul. Some people study your heart only to gain access to it. And one of the greatest mistakes a person can make is ignoring the warning signs because the attention feels good in the beginning. Listen carefully. Wisdom is not only learning who to trust. Wisdom is learning who not to ignore when the signs are already speaking. The first clue is this: they move too fast. Healthy people build trust slowly. Real love takes time. Real connection grows with honesty, patience, and consistency. But narcissistic people often rush emotional intimacy. They shower you with compliments. They make you feel like you are the answer to every prayer they ever had. They speak in extremes. I've never met anyone like you. You understand me better than anyone. We are meant to be. And while your heart is opening, your discernment is slowly going to sleep, because manipulation often enters wearing the clothes of affection. Anyone can speak beautiful words in the beginning. Character is revealed with time, pressure, disagreement, sacrifice. Pay attention to people who create emotional intensity before emotional stability. The second clue is this: everything becomes about them. At first, they may seem deeply interested in you. They ask questions. They listen carefully. But eventually, you notice something strange. Your stories become shorter while theirs become longer. Your pain becomes ignored while their pain becomes the center of attention. You celebrate them constantly, but they rarely celebrate you sincerely. And slowly, without realizing it, you begin shrinking so they can continue feeling large. A narcissistic person feeds on attention the way fire feeds on oxygen. They crave admiration, validation, control. And when a relationship becomes centered only around one person's ego, the other person slowly loses their identity. Never ignore relationships where your voice keeps disappearing. The third clue is their lack of empathy. Now, understand this carefully. Narcissists can imitate empathy. They can perform compassion. They can say comforting words when it benefits their image. But genuine empathy costs something. It requires humility, presence, emotional maturity. Narcissistic person struggles to truly care when your needs inconvenience them. When you are hurting, they become irritated. When you express emotions, they call you dramatic. When you need understanding, they make you feel guilty for having needs at all. And this is dangerous because eventually you stop expressing yourself just to keep the peace. Never normalize emotional neglect simply because someone is charismatic. Charm without compassion is manipulation in disguise. The fourth clue is manipulation through confusion. Pay attention to how you feel after conversations with them. Do you constantly feel guilty, confused, mentally exhausted? Do you question your memory, your emotions, your instincts? That is not accidental. Narcissistic people often use confusion as control. They deny things they clearly said. They twist situations. They blame you for reactions caused by their behavior. They make you apologize for wounds they created. And the tragic part is this: good-hearted people often stay too long because they keep trying to explain themselves to someone committed to misunderstanding them. But you cannot heal in an environment where truth is constantly being rewritten. Peace is not found where manipulation lives. The fifth clue is their inability to accept accountability. Mature people can say, "I was wrong." Narcissistic people protect their ego at all costs. Correct them gently, they become angry. Hold them accountable, they become the victim. Expose inconsistency, they attack your character instead of addressing the issue. Because for them, preserving superiority matters more than preserving truth. And listen carefully. People who never take responsibility eventually make everyone around them carry emotional burdens that were never theirs to hold. Do not confuse arrogance with strength. Real strength is humility. Real power is self-awareness. Real maturity is accountability. The sixth clue is this: they compete instead of connect. A healthy relationship is partnership, support, growth. But narcissistic people often compete with the very people who love them. Your success threatens them. Your confidence unsettles them. Your independence weakens them. In our control, so they criticize subtly, they diminish your achievements, they make little comments designed to lower your confidence while maintaining their own importance. And if you are not careful, you will spend years trying to earn approval from someone who secretly enjoys seeing you doubt yourself. Never stay connected to people who are nourished by your insecurity. And finally, the seventh clue is the loss of your inner peace. This may be the greatest sign of all. Your spirit knows before your mind admits it. You start overthinking constantly. Your anxiety increases. Your confidence decreases. You feel emotionally drained after every interaction. You walk on eggshells. You silence yourself. You lose joy. You lose clarity. You lose pieces of who you once were. And deep inside, your soul keeps whispering, something is wrong. Listen to that voice. Discernment is a gift. Not every connection deserves access to your heart. Not every person deserves unlimited chances. You are not called to sacrifice your peace to prove your love. Healthy love does not destroy your confidence. Healthy love does not manipulate your mind. Healthy love does not make you afraid to speak. The truth is, narcissistic people often reveal themselves early, but many ignore the clues because they fear loneliness more than dysfunction. But being alone temporarily is far better than being emotionally imprisoned permanently. Protect your peace. Protect your mind. Protect your purpose. And remember this: the right people will never require you to abandon yourself in order to keep them. The moment you stop ignoring the warning signs is the moment your healing begins. One of the earliest and most dangerous signs of a narcissistic person is how quickly they try to create emotional intensity. In the beginning, it can feel exciting, flattering, and even magical. They know exactly how to make someone feel special. Their words are powerful, their attention feels constant, and their energy can seem almost addictive. They may compliment you excessively, tell you that you are different from everyone else, or act as if they have never connected with anyone the way they connect with you. To an unsuspecting heart, this can feel like destiny. But wisdom teaches us that genuine connection is not built in a rush. Real trust takes time. Real character is revealed slowly through consistency, patience, honesty, and sacrifice. A narcissistic person often studies what you desire emotionally and reflects it back to you like a mirror. If you long to feel understood, they suddenly become deeply understanding. If you crave affection, they overwhelm you with affection. If you seek validation, they praise you constantly. But the problem is not attention itself. The problem is the speed and intensity behind it. Healthy people allow relationships to breathe. They respect emotional boundaries. They understand that meaningful bonds are built layer by layer. Narcissistic people, however, often try to fast forward emotional intimacy because quick attachment creates easier control. Many people mistake intensity for sincerity. They believe because something feels powerful, it must also be genuine. But emotions can be manipulated when wisdom is absent. A person who truly values you will not pressure you into emotional dependence before trust has been earned. They will not make grand promises while barely knowing your character. They will not create a fantasy connection simply to secure your admiration and loyalty. This is why discernment matters more than feelings alone. Feelings can be influenced by attention, loneliness, attraction, or emotional hunger, but discernment watches patterns. It observes consistency. It notices whether words and actions align over time. Narcissistic individuals often appear incredible in the beginning because they are selling an image designed to impress you. Yet eventually the mask becomes difficult to maintain. The excessive affection turns into control. The admiration becomes expectation. The charm becomes manipulation. People who move too fast emotionally often want access before accountability. They want your trust before earning it. They want emotional influence before proving their intentions. And when someone tries to rush closeness without building a real foundation, wisdom says to slow down and pay attention. Because anything built too quickly without truth underneath it will eventually reveal cracks that no amount of charm can hide. One of the clearest clues of a narcissistic person is that everything eventually becomes centered around them. In the beginning, they may appear deeply interested in your life. They ask questions, give attention, and make you feel important. You may believe you have finally found Mioni who truly listens and understands, but over time, the balance begins to shift. Conversations slowly become one-sided. Your victories are overlooked while theirs are magnified. Your struggles become interruptions while their problems demand endless attention. Without realizing it, you begin carrying the emotional weight of the entire relationship while they continue feeding their need for validation. A narcissistic person craves importance constantly. Their identity is often built on admiration, control, and superiority. Because of this, they naturally redirect focus back to themselves. If you share exciting news, they find a way to make their story bigger. If you express pain, they somehow become the greater victim. If you need emotional support, they may dismiss your feelings or act irritated that your needs are taking attention away from them. Slowly, you begin feeling emotionally invisible even while standing beside someone who claims to care about you. This behavior can become emotionally exhausting because healthy relationships require mutual care. Real connection involves listening, empathy, support, and emotional presence from both people. But narcissistic individual, and sometimes we view relationships through the lens of personal benefit. They may enjoy what you provide, attention, admiration, loyalty, emotional support, but struggle to offer the same energy in return. The relationship becomes less about partnership and more about maintaining their emotional supply. What makes this dangerous is how subtle it can happen. At first, you may excuse the behavior. You tell yourself they are stressed, misunderstood, or emotionally wounded. You keep giving more patience, more understanding, and more energy. But over time, your own emotional needs begin disappearing. You stop talking about your struggles because they never seem to matter. You silence your feelings to avoid conflict. You become so focused on protecting their emotions that you neglect your own mental and emotional well-being. A healthy person celebrates your growth without feeling threatened by it. They listen without turning every conversation back to themselves. They make space for your emotions instead of competing with them. Narcissistic people, however, often struggle when attention is not centered on them because their sense of worth depends heavily on external validation. This is why self-awareness is so important. Pay attention to how people make you feel consistently. Relationships should not leave you emotionally depleted, unheard, or unseen. The moment you realize your voice keeps shrinking while their ego keeps expanding is the moment you must recognize that something unhealthy is taking root beneath the surface. One of the deepest warning signs of a narcissistic person is their inability to show genuine empathy. At first, this can be difficult to recognize because narcissistic individuals are often skilled at appearing caring when it benefits them. They may say comforting words, offer temporary support, or act compassionate in public settings where their image matters, but true empathy is more than words. It is the ability to sincerely understand, value, and care about another person's emotions even when there is no reward attached to it. And this is where the mask often begins to fall. When you are emotionally hurting, a healthy person becomes present. They listen without making everything about themselves. They create safety instead of fear. They respect your feelings even if they do not fully understand them. But narcissistic people often become empathy. When your emotions require real attention, they may minimize your pain, mock your sensitivity, ignore your struggles, or make you feel guilty for expressing emotional needs at all. Instead of comfort, you receive criticism. Instead of understanding, you receive emotional distance. Over time, this creates confusion because their behavior can feel inconsistent. One moment they appear supportive, and the next moment they seem cold, dismissive, or emotionally unavailable. This inconsistency causes many people to hold on to false hope. They focus on the occasional moments of kindness while ignoring the repeated pattern of emotional neglect. But genuine empathy is not occasional, it is consistent. It shows up during difficult moments, uncomfortable conversations, and inconvenient situations. A narcissistic person often struggles to truly care unless your emotions somehow serve their needs or protect their image. If your pain requires sacrifice, patience, or accountability from them, they may become defensive or irritated. Sometimes they may even turn your pain into a burden that you must apologize for causing. You begin feeling afraid to express sadness, disappointment, or frustration, because every emotional conversation somehow becomes about their discomfort instead of your healing. This slowly damages your emotional confidence. You start questioning whether your feelings are valid. You begin suppressing emotions to avoid conflict. You convince yourself that expecting understanding is asking for too much. But no healthy relationship should force you to abandon your emotional truth simply to keep another person comfortable. Empathy is one of the purest signs of emotional maturity because it requires humility and compassion. Narcissistic individuals often lack this depth because their focus remains centered on protecting their ego and maintaining control. They may understand emotions intellectually, but they struggle to connect with them sincerely on a heart level. Pay attention to how someone responds when you are vulnerable. Anyone can appear loving when life is easy, but true character is revealed by how a person treats you when you are struggling, emotional, or in need of support. A person who consistently dismisses your feelings while demanding constant understanding for their own emotions reveals a relationship built on imbalance rather than genuine One of the most dangerous traits of a narcissistic person is the way they manipulate through confusion, guilt, and emotional control. In the beginning, the manipulation is often subtle. It does not arrive looking harmful or obvious. Instead, it hides behind charm, selective kindness, and emotional inconsistency. Over time, however, you begin noticing a pattern. Conversations leave you mentally exhausted. Simple disagreements somehow become your fault. You start replaying situations in your head, wondering if you misunderstood what clearly happened. This is how emotional manipulation slowly weakens a person's confidence and clarity. A narcissistic individual often uses confusion as a tool to maintain control. They may deny things they previously said, change details of conversations, or twist situations to avoid accountability. When confronted about hurtful behavior, instead of addressing the issue honestly, they redirect the focus onto your reaction. Suddenly, the problem is no longer what they did. The problem becomes your emotions, your tone, or your response. This creates emotional chaos because you begin defending yourself instead of holding them accountable. One common tactic is guilt manipulation. They make you feel selfish for setting boundaries. They act wounded when you prioritize your own peace. They may say things that cause you to question your loyalty or kindness simply because you are trying to protect yourself emotionally. Over time, you begin carrying responsibility for emotions and behaviors that were never yours to manage. You become emotionally trapped, constantly trying to prove your love, patience, or understanding while they continue avoiding responsibility. Another powerful form of manipulation is the silent treatment and emotional withdrawal. Instead of communicating maturely, narcissistic individuals may punish you with distance, coldness, or emotional absence whenever they do not get their way. This creates anxiety because you begin fearing conflict and doing everything possible to avoid upsetting them. Slowly, you stop speaking honestly. You silence your needs. You abandon your emotional truth just to maintain temporary peace. The most damaging part of manipulation is how it disconnects you from your own instincts. You stop trusting your memory, your judgment, and your emotions. even when your spirit senses something unheeded. The constant confusion makes you doubt yourself. This is why many people stay in toxic relationships far longer than they should. They are no longer thinking clearly because manipulation clouds discernment. Healthy relationships do not require mental exhaustion to survive. Real love brings clarity, honesty, and emotional safety. A mature person communicates directly instead of using guilt, fear, or confusion to gain power. They respect your boundaries instead of punishing you for having them. They seek understanding instead of control. When you constantly feel emotionally drained, anxious, or confused after interacting with someone, pay attention carefully. Peace and truth walk together. Manipulation and confusion walk together too. And the moment you stop ignoring repeated emotional chaos is the moment you begin claiming your clarity, your confidence, and your freedom. One of the strongest signs of a narcissistic person is their inability to accept accountability. No matter how obvious the situation may be, they struggle deeply with admitting fault because their ego depends on protecting an image of superiority, perfection, or control. To them, being wrong feels like weakness, and instead of learning from mistakes, they often spend their energy defending themselves against responsibility. This creates relationships filled with frustration, emotional imbalance, and unresolved conflict. A healthy and emotionally mature person understands that mistakes are part of growth. They can listen to correction without feeling personally destroyed. They are capable of saying, "I was wrong, I hurt you," or "I need to do better." Accountability requires humility, honesty, and emotional strength. But narcissistic individuals often react very differently when confronted with their behavior. Even gentle feedback can trigger defensiveness, anger, blame shifting, or emotional manipulation. Instead of focusing on the issue itself, they focus on protecting their ego. If you explain that something they said hurt you, they may accuse you of being too sensitive. If you point out inconsistency, they may attack your character rather than address the truth. Sometimes they completely deny their behavior. Other times they twist the situation until they appear to be the victim instead of the person causing harm. This pattern leaves the other person emotionally exhausted because use healthy communication becomes nearly impossible when one person refuses responsibility. Over time, you may notice that every disagreement ends the same way. You apologize even when you were hurt. You explain yourself repeatedly while they avoid self-reflection. You begin carrying emotional burdens that belong to them because they refuse to acknowledge their part in the problem. This creates a dangerous imbalance where one person is constantly growing, adjusting, and sacrificing while the other remains emotionally immature and protected by pride. Narcissistic individuals often fear accountability because it threatens the image they desperately want others to believe. They want admiration without correction, authority without responsibility, and validation without self-awareness. But true strength is not found in pretending to be flawless. Real strength is the ability to face truth honestly and still remain grounded. People who avoid accountability eventually damage every relationship around them because unresolved behavior repeats itself. If a person never admits wrongdoing, they never truly change. Without humility, growth becomes impossible. This is why patterns matter more than promises. Someone can apologize with words, but if their behavior never changes, the apology becomes another form of control instead of genuine remorse. Pay close attention to how someone responds when confronted with truth. Mature people seek understanding even during uncomfortable conversations. Narcissistic people often seek escape, dominance, or blame. A relationship cannot remain healthy when only one person is willing to reflect, improve, and take responsibility. The moment accountability disappears, emotional safety begins disappearing with it, and eventually the relationship becomes built on ego instead of trust. One of the most painful signs of a narcissistic person is that they slowly drain your peace while pretending to love you. In the beginning, their presence may feel exciting, intense, and emotionally powerful. You may believe you have found someone who truly understands you, but Over time, something inside you begins to change. The peace you once carried starts disappearing. Your mind becomes restless. Your confidence weakens. Your emotional energy feels constantly exhausted. And even though you continue giving love, patience, and understanding, the relationship leaves you feeling emptier instead of stronger. This happens because narcissistic relationships are often emotionally one-sided. The narcissistic person expects constant attention, validation, support, and emotional sacrifice while giving very little genuine emotional security in return. Slowly, the relationship becomes centered around keeping them comfortable, avoiding their reactions, and protecting their ego. Without realizing it, you begin walking on eggshells. You overthink your words. You suppress your emotions. You avoid honest conversations because conflict always leaves you emotionally drained. One of the greatest dangers of emotional manipulation is how quietly it steals your identity. At first, the changes seem small. You become more anxious. You stop expressing certain feelings. You apologize more often. You question your instincts. But eventually, you wake up and realize you no longer feel like yourself. The joy, confidence, and emotional freedom you once had have slowly faded beneath the weight of constant emotional tension. Narcissistic individuals often create environments where love feels conditional. You feel valued when you are pleasing them, supporting or feeding their emotional needs. But the moment you need understanding, boundaries, or emotional space, the atmosphere changes. They may become cold, distant, critical, or manipulative. This creates emotional instability because you never feel completely safe. Your nervous system stays in survival mode, always trying to predict moods, avoid problems, and maintain temporary peace. Real love does not constantly drain your spirit. Healthy relationships bring emotional stability, encouragement, and safety. You should feel heard, respected, and emotionally secure around someone who truly loves you. While every relationship faces challenges, genuine love should not leave you feeling emotionally isolated, mentally exhausted, or afraid to be yourself. Many people stay in emotionally unhealthy relationships because they become attached to the hope of who the person appeared to be in the beginning. They keep chasing the moments of affection while ignoring the repeated pattern of emotional harm. But peace is one of the clearest indicators of emotional health. When a relationship consistently destroys your peace, weakens your confidence, and disconnects you from yourself, something unhealthy is taking place beneath the surface. Your inner peace is valuable, your emotional well-being matters, and no relationship, no matter how attractive or emotionally intense it appears, is worth losing yourself completely. The moment you begin protecting your peace instead of constantly sacrificing it is the moment you begin reclaiming your strength, your clarity, and your self-worth. And in the end, the greatest lesson is this: not everyone who enters your life deserves permanent access to your heart. Some people arrive as lessons disguised as blessings, and wisdom is learning to recognize the difference before your peace is destroyed. Never ignore the warning signs simply because someone is charming, attractive, or emotionally intense. Protect your mind, protect your spirit, and protect the purpose placed inside you. Healthy love will never require you to lose yourself in order to keep someone else comfortable. The right people will bring clarity, peace, honesty, and growth into your life, not confusion, fear, and emotional exhaustion. Trust your discernment, value your worth, and never settle for relationships that slowly destroy the person you were created to become. Thank you so much for listening. If this message spoke to your heart, carry these lessons with wisdom and courage. Keep growing, keep protecting your peace, and never stop becoming the strongest version of yourself. Your future becomes brighter the moment you stop ignoring what your spirit has been trying to tell you all along. Stay focused, stay wise, and keep moving forward.